Thank you, girls.
And boy.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's so Christmassy here. Thank you for the ladies and for some of the men who came over yesterday to decorate the church. That's so nice. You can have your pictures taken after worship. We already had ours. FYI, so we're not going to be crowded. Now, we continue on our series about the story. In fact, we are now in chapter 20, and we are more than half of that story already. And the next Sunday, we are going to talk about Nehemiah. And then after that, we're going to be on the New Testament. Now, this morning, we will be talking about Esther, one of my favorite character in the Bible, Esther, the queen of beauty and courage. And just to give a background summary of this, we know that Judah or the southern kingdom of Israel was attacked and conquered by Nebuchadnezzar, by the Babylonian Empire, and they were all the survivors were brought to Babylon. And they lived there, and it was a promise that was given through prophet Jeremiah, God saying that you're going to stay there for 70 years. And after 70 years, you can go back home. And that was a promise. In fact, that promise was fulfilled during the time of Ezra and during the time of the prophet Haggai. And we talked about that last Sunday. So 50,000, King Darius said that, okay, you can go home. Okay? You can go home to your land, and for one purpose only. You have to rebuild the temple of your God. Imagine that a pagan king telling the Jewish people, go home and rebuild the temple of your God that was broken down by the Babylonians, by King Nebuchadnezzar. And so 15,000 men, not including women and children. So roughly around, maybe we'll put it around 200,000 to 300,000 people went back there. Not everybody went back. Okay? There were those who stayed around in Persia because Babylon, the Babylon Empire was attacked and conquered and was defeated by the Persian Empire. Not everybody went back home. Most of them actually stayed in Persia because they already have their house established there. They already have their family established there. They already have their business established there. And many of them already have a position in the government affairs. Now, in this story, if you go to Esther, book of Esther, and we are going to study the whole book of Esther, and that's 9 chapters, I believe. And let me introduce you to 5 main characters. Okay? The first character is, of course, the king himself, King Xerxes. King Xerxes of Persia, or King Xerxes the Great, or also he's called King Xerxes the First. Now, King Xerxes loves to party. Okay, that's what he does. He loves to party and to show off his vast wealth and power. And this has been his tradition. Before they would go to war, in fact, this happened before they are going to conquer and attack Greece. There's a 6 months of preparation. 6 months of preparation for them. 180 days. And this isn't a military preparation. This is party. Okay, 6 months of party. It's like 6 months of Oktoberfest. Something like that. And so he showed off his vast wealth and power. And then, after 6 months, he said, okay, everybody in Susa, which is the capital of Persia at that time, he said, we are going to party again for 7 days. Okay, so it's all about party. On the 7th day, he called his wife, the Queen Vashti. He said, come over here with just your crown. Now, King Xerxes was born 519 years before Jesus Christ was born. So 519 BC. He's an Iranian. Okay, he was born in Iran. And he invaded Greece in 480 BC. Now, if you say his name sounds familiar because if you remember, if you've watched the movie 300, not 300, you've watched the movie 300, The Rise of an Empire. That's him. Okay, Xerxes, the one who killed King Leonidas. He's the bad king. He's a bad king. He's really bad. And on the last day of the party, he asked his queen, Queen Vashti, to come over with her crown, and that would lead us to the second character. And she doesn't have a picture, so I just picked Queen of Queen of Lion. Right? That's Queen Vashti. And Queen Vashti is the kind of character that if you are going to watch a movie, the character that you like, the character that you love, and then after you, and you could see the name of Queen Vashti, that character, in the first, we'll say, first 5 minutes, and then after that she would die. And that is the kind of character Queen Vashti was. When King Xerxes said, come over here, honey, and imagine 180 days plus 7, so 187 days, so the 7th day she was going, and they were drunk. He said, come over here, honey, and I want you to wear just your crown. Excuse me, Queen Vashti said, oh, I'm not your trophy wife. I'm not going to walk around with my crown. Because King Xerxes was so proud of her beauty. She was so beautiful. She was so intelligent. She was so smart. And come over here, honey. I've got men here and they want to see you naked. Because that's what most of the commentators say. Just with your crown. And Queen Vashti said, no way. I'm not going to do that. Even if you're a king. Now, I said she was deposed right away. So it's like, we love her character. She's a woman of character, of integrity. But just like that. After we flip the page, she's gone. Why? Well, because King Xerxes said, how dare you, honey? Okay? I'm the boss here, I'm the king here, you're just the wife. And so King Xerxes consulted his advisor, what are we going to do with my queen? And he was so angry. Remember, King Xerxes is a mad dog king. He's a bad king. What are we going to do with my queen? And Macmillan, or one of the advisors, said, you know what? It's not acceptable. We suggest that you issue a written decree, a law of the Persians and Medes that cannot be revoked. It should order that Queen Vashti be forever banished from the presence of King Xerxes, meaning forever banished, meaning be killed. And that the king should choose another queen more worthy than she. And this is the reason. When this decree is published throughout the king's vast empire, husbands everywhere, whatever their rank, will receive proper respect from their wives. Now wives, if you're not going to respect, if you're not going to submit to your husband, this is going to happen to you. Because this has been a decree. No. Not really. That was the decree thing. Okay, it was a Persian decree, and you know how insecure men were during that time. They were so insecure of their wives that they have to make a law. They have to make a law that the wife will submit to the husband. Right? Now, in chapter 2 of the book of Esther, it says here, but after Xerxes' anger had subsided, remember he was drunk then, he was so angry, he was so mad, he banished his wife, but after Xerxes' anger had subsided, he began thinking about Vashti and what she had done, and the decree he had made. He was so sad. I made a terrible mistake. I let my emotion come over. I let the spirit of wine and alcohol to decide for me. He loved her. He loved her so much. He was so depressed. In verse 2 in chapter 2, so his personal attendant suggested, how about this? Let us make a Who Wants to Marry a King, or Who Wants to Marry a Millionaire, or like a Bachelor thing, a TV reality show, Bachelor, or Who Wants to Marry a Millionaire. And let us search the empire to find beautiful young virgins for the king. Now if you think that these reality TV shows, Bachelor, or Who Wants to Marry a Millionaire is a new thing, actually it was taken from this. Right? Who Wants to Marry a Millionaire. The mechanic is this. So King Xerxes commanded, okay, everybody in the kingdom, you know how far the kingdom, how big the kingdom was? It's like from Alaska, Canada, USA, until Mexico. That's how big the kingdom of King Xerxes was. It's so huge. And so they rounded up, forcibly rounding up all the beautiful women in his kingdom, and that's going to be thousands of beautiful women. Thousands, when we say women, we are talking about teenagers and young women. Okay, from 13 years old to 25 years old. They rounded up beautiful women and teenagers around, and then there's a first round of selection. Okay, the most beautiful among them, and you know the process of elimination for Miss Universe, right? That's what they do, and then after they go to a few thousands and then a few hundreds, and look who's the most beautiful of them all. It was King Esther. Well, he wasn't a queen then. It was Hadassah. The real name was Hadassah. It was her. The mechanics is this. After the selection process, if there are only a few hundreds left, they have to have one night with the king. Okay? One night. They have to sleep one night with the king. Until the king would say, okay, I like you. I will crown you as queen. Okay? And if you're not chosen, you would belong to the concubines. You can't marry another guy. You're going to go to this harem. You know, if the king would say, okay, I'd like you for tonight, then just like it. It's just concubine, one of the wives of the king. And they have, for the few hundreds remaining, they have at least, I would say, in the Bible it says 1 year. 1 year of beautification process. 1 year that they would have to beautify themselves, adorn themselves with oil. Okay? 1 year to make them more beautiful. Imagine your wife staying in the bathroom for 1 hour. It's not even close. 1 year in the bathroom. 1 year in front of the mirror. So 1 hour is not even close, but it's not an excuse. Still, here we have to go, right? We're late. And here comes Queen Esther, the third character. Hadassah. Esther, whose Hebrew name was Hadassah, was an orphan. And she was raised and adopted by his older cousin Mordecai. In chapter 2, verse 7, it says, this young woman had a lovely figure and was beautiful. Very, very beautiful and lovely figure. Now, if you would think of lovely figure as size 0, you're wrong. Going back to those days, figure are curves. Size 10 probably, or size 15, or size 20 probably. But she's beautiful. So don't get insecure. Husbands, you have to tell your wife always, you have so pretty, you're so beautiful, you have nice figure based on the Persian beauty. I mean, that's true. And so the very moment she walked the catwalk, everybody was awed by her beauty. She was a very beautiful, intelligent. She was the favorite of the king's eunuch and was given special treatment. And after spending 1 night with the king, have you seen the movie One Night with the King? It's a beautiful movie. 1 night with the king. They took that title, One Night with the King, because she spent 1 night with the king. Okay, after spending 1 night with the king was so impressed with her beauty, the king was so impressed with her smartness, and made her a queen. A Jewish teenager becoming the queen of the Persian kingdom. Now that would lead us to the next character, Mordecai. Mordecai was the adoptive cousin of Esther. A very God-fearing Hebrew guy. He was part of those people who are not very close to the king, but he's got a government office as he would stand by the gate, temple, or the castle of the king, and the door gate. And one day he overheard a plot against the king and reported it to Esther, and Esther reported it to the guards, the captain of the guards, and Mordecai's name was written in the historical book of King Xerxes' reign. And that would lead us to the fifth one, a man of character with a character. His name is Haman, the Agagite. Okay? Haman was promoted as the right-hand man of King Xerxes. He was a descendant of King Agag. Okay? An evil Amalekite king. King Agag was king that King Saul did not kill, and prophet Isaiah was so mad at him, God was so mad at him, why he did not kill King Agag. And he was a descendant, okay, of King Agag. And do you know how prophet Isaiah killed King Agag? You might say that the ISIS people are so mean. He cut him into pieces. That's how bad prophet Isaiah was. No, not really. But that's how mad prophet Isaiah was then, because King Agag was an evil king. In chapter 3, here comes now the plot against the Jews. Chapter 3, verse 5. When Haman saw that Mordecai would not bow down or show him respect, because Haman was a very egocentric leader, ego-tripping leader. He wanted everybody, he was the second in the command, okay? But he wanted everybody to bow down before him. But Mordecai doesn't want to do that, because he would only bow down to God. In verse 5, when Haman saw that Mordecai would not bow down or show him respect, he was filled with rage. He had learned of Mordecai's nationality, that he was a Hebrew. So he decided it was not enough to lay hands on Mordecai alone. Instead, he looked for a way to destroy all the Jews throughout the entire empire of Xerxes. He was the first Hitler. He wanted everybody killed. Children and women, young and old. And he made a decree about this. Now Haman's rage is not just about Mordecai's direct disobedience of not bowing to him, but of what prophet Isaiah did to his great-grandfather, which happened almost 500 years ago. Imagine keeping that anger and revenge. Well, 500 years ago, because of what they did to your great-grandfather. In verse 7, so in the month of April, during the 12th year of King Xerxes' reign, lots were cast in Haman's presence. And the lots were called Purim, to determine the best day and month to take action. And the day was selected, which is day after my birthday. March 7th. Take note of that one. It's not coming yet. Nearly a year later. That was a decree. All the Jewish people in the entire Persian kingdom, meaning that everybody gonna be killed on that day. And he asked the king's permission and said, King, I'm going to give you money, vast wealth, 300 tons of silver. The king said, no, you can't have it. Go kill those people. They're separatists, they're rebels. Go ahead, kill those people. He's got the king's approval. He said, thank God. In verse 7, in chapter 4, the problem is every Jewish people, when they heard about the news, it's like, okay, King Nebuchadnezzar spared us. King Darius did not kill us. King Cyrus did not kill us. And here comes the king, Xerxes. He approved Haman to kill us all. We've got 1 year to live. All our children are going to be dead. All of us are going to be dead. They cried. They wept. They were full of fear. Mordecai and some of the elders of the Jewish people wore sackcloth. And then Mordecai sent a word to Queen Esther to talk to the king and intervene. And this is the instruction in verse 10 of chapter 4. Then, and said, okay, this is what's going to happen. So Queen Esther said, so she instructed him to say to Mordecai, which is the eunuch. In verse 11, this is what Queen Esther said. All the king's officials and the people of the royal provinces know that for any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner court without being summoned by the king has but one law. And that law is that they be put to death. They be put to death if they are not invited, unless the king extends the gold scepter to them and spares their life. Mordecai, my cousin, my dad, my adoptive dad, I want you to know The king did not call for me for 30 days now. I've never seen his face. And if I am going to go, even if I am the queen, without being called and summoned and invited by the king, they're going to cut off my head. But you are the wife, you're the queen, yes. Now, this law was given because they are afraid that somebody is going to assassinate the king. Even the wife, much more. The queen is known to assassinate the king and cut him off, because the king always has lots of wives. They don't have time. So guys, if you don't spend time with your wife, I'm telling you, be careful. Be careful. So that was a predicament. For 30 days now, I've never seen him. The king did not call me. And here's Mordecai's wisdom. In verse 12, when Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, verse 13, he sent back this answer. He said, Hadassah, Queen Esther, do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jewish people will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. Mordecai was saying, Esther, God doesn't really need your help to save the Jewish people. Doesn't need your help. He can always raise up somebody to save us. But who knows? Who knows that God placed you in that position today where you are right now for such a time as this? This is the time that you have to stop acting like Barbie. You have to be G.I. Joe. Now, do you think it's just a coincidence that you belong to this church? Or you're here this morning? Or is it because God wanted to accomplish something beautiful through you in this church for such a time as this? Especially as we plan on opening up a campus at one point on Easter Sunday. Do you think it's just a coincidence that you work at the place where you are right now, you live in that home where you are right now, you go to the school where you're going right now, or you live in the neighborhood where you are right now, or is it because God has a purpose for you for such time as this? You might be complaining, I don't like my job, I don't like my work, I don't like my people, I don't like my coworker, I don't like my school, I don't like my friends, I don't like my neighbor, then go ahead, vanish. Right? But maybe God called you to be in that place, to be in that situation, to be in that school, to be in that workplace, to be in that neighborhood for such a time as this. God has a purpose for you for such a time as this. And your excuse probably was like the people in Haggai's time. It was, well, it's not yet time. It's not yet the right time. God said, shut up. This is now the right time. God has placed you where you are, in the situation where you are, in your school, in your neighborhood, in your family, in your work, for such a time as this, because I have a purpose for you. Amen? Can you tell that to the person sitting next to you? God has placed you where you are because He has a purpose for you for such a time as this. And then here's Queen Esther's promise. He said, okay. It's replied to Mordecai. He said, verse 16, go, gather together all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. If I die, I die. The king was able to depose Queen Vashti. He could also do the same for me, says Esther. In chapter 5, so we are fast, right? Chapter 5, book of Esther. On the third day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the palace. In front of the king's hall, the king was sitting on his royal throne in the hall, facing the entrance.